Would you like to lead us, Jana?
Yeah. Jana, you want to lead?
Sure. Yes, that's fine.
Yeah.
Praise to Shakyamuni Buddha once or three times in English. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. Short mandala offering, once in Tibetan. Sajipo ki jung shing me tog Tram ri rab ling ji ni de gen pa di sangye jing du mig te u wai dro kunam dag jing la Chopar Shog Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamnirya Tayami. Refuge in Bodhicitta, once in English, twice in Tibetan. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye chodang soki chognam la jangchu bardu dagni kyab suchi dagi chunyengi pe sonamgi drola penchir sangye drupar sho Sangye chodang soki chognam la jangchu bardu dagni kyab suchi dagi chunyengi pe sonamgi Drola penchir sangye drupar shok.
So we can try to generate a Bodhicitta motivation for a few moments by thinking the purpose of my life is to help to liberate all sentient beings from all their suffering and cause of suffering, and to lead them to ultimate true happiness. To do that, I myself need to achieve fully awakened state. And in order to achieve that fully awakened state, I must engage in the practice on the both of the path in order to practice, I need to continue to learn, study, be reminded. Therefore, I'm going to listen, and not only listen, that whatever I find helpful, beneficial, that I will try to apply and integrate in my everyday life as much as possible. Okay, so today's topic of the talk is advice for daily practice. So of course, we try to integrate the Dharma in our everyday life as much as we can in our everyday life, making it part of our everyday life. Is not just only on the cushions, but making every aspect of our life, whatever we do, throughout the day, to make all of them as part of our Dharma practice, in order to have a better result from our practice. Practice doesn't mean just being on the cushions. Yeah. As you can see, in all the practices and teachings, normally there is a practice during the meditation session and practice during the post-meditation sessions. And so the practice is kind of in two different. One, in meditation session, when you are doing a formal meditation practice on cushions. And post-meditations practice are when you are not on cushions on formal practice, but when you are engaging in your different activities throughout the day. How can we bring the practice into all those what we do, and thereby making the day, throughout the day, whatever we do throughout the day, making a meaningful virtues. And when we make our day meaningful and virtuous, then day by day our week become meaningful and virtuous. And when week by week become meaningful and virtuous, then it become, our month become beneficial, virtuous, meaningful, and month by month, year by year, and then your life become meaningful and virtuous and beneficials. So I think that is very important. But at the same time, sometimes I hear people saying, and also they think, well, practicing the Dharma means being kind, compassion in your life. That is most important, and so therefore they don't feel important of having a daily practice. For them, practice means being kind and compassionate in your life as much as possible. Definitely, of course, that is most important, very important. The very reason why we have formal practice, daily formal practice, is to inspire us and to help us to become more kind, compassionate, more patient, more understanding, more caring, more wise, all of that, and interacting in that way with others. Definitely, there is no doubt about that, But at the same time, having a formal daily practice is very important on top of trying to be kind, compassion, loving, caring, While we try to be as much as possible to be more patient, more kind, more loving, more caring in our everyday life, we inspire to be that, we put effort to do that, to be that, and we try to, put all the effort of our practice to become that. But at the same time, it's important to have a formal daily practice. I've met some people over the years who has been very inspired by the Buddhist teachings, practice, who have gone to many teachings, who have studies, who have read themselves and studied themselves and live their life trying to be kind, compassionate as much as possible, but who didn't have a formal daily practice, who didn't have formal daily practice, and somehow they didn't feel maybe it was important, or maybe they were not advised, or they didn't know. But even though they have been involved in Dharma for so many years, they have gone to dharamsalas, and some of them, received a lot of teaching from His Holiness Dalai Lama and others teachers there, and all of that. But it seems they didn't seem to have formal daily practice. And some of them I saw, and as they were passing, before they passed away, because that is how I get to know, because they asked me if I could come and give some advice or some prayers, because they were coming to the end of their life, and therefore, and when I asked, do they have any kind of, particular practice, specific practice, a kind of daily practice they have? So, if they have, then it will help me to kind of guide them in that practice, in that stage, and give some advice how to do that and all of that. But then, some of them they didn't have. And what I find was, so they didn't know what to practice, what to do at that moment. They feel like they need some practice. They feel like they needed some that, but then they didn't have that. In that moment, definitely they felt at the time of death, when they were, that they could die in weeks, months, years, because of their certain illness. And they knew that it was coming, their life was coming end, and they wanted to do some practice, but they didn't know what to practice. And they didn't, because they didn't have a daily formal practice to do that. And it is very hard to have a daily formal practice in that time when you are not used to certain practice that you are not familiar with, And those are some challenges I found within some students who didn't have a formal daily practice. Even it might be very simple practice, a lot of the older generation, let's say, from where I'm from, that part of the world, Tibet, many mountain regions in Nepal, India, where the Tibetan Mahayana Vajrayana Buddhists very strong. And in them, a lot of my parent generation, because they didn't have education, many of them, they didn't know how to read, they didn't know readings, but they have memorized some of the prayers, some of the prayers, even though they don't know how to write. Like my mom started to memorize many prayers, one line by one line. When I go home, she will ask me to repeat one line 3-4 times, and she will memorize like that. Many of them, they memorize many of the prayers, and throughout their whole life they do those prayers and practice in relation to those prayers, and a lot of recitation of mantra throughout the day. And that was their kind of formal daily practice. Many of them had making commitments, even though no one asked them to do, but many of them have made commitment to do, 5,000 Om Mani Padme each day, 1,000 of Guru Moshe mantras, a few thousand of each of them. So every day they do, few, like 5,000, 10,000 that of different mantras. And that keep them very busy throughout the day, And one, it feels like they have the meaning in their life. There's something they aspire every day to do, There's something to do. It keeps them busy. It feel that they have something meaningful to do. It gives them hope, and that is very beautiful that I find. Even we don't talk about future lives and all of that, but even in this life at that time, as I share sometime, I've been some of the old age home here in this part of the world, also in Europe and some, and I've seen people feel very sad, sense of feeling no hope, no inspirations, nothing to look forward, sense of no meanings. It's just like you are waiting to die. You never know when you are going to die. You know you are going to die in that time, in those homes. And because they don't have that kind of practice, And of course, some of them have been very kind, compassionate, loving, patient, caring in their life. But at the same time, they don't have that kind of daily practices. And so therefore, when they reach a point where they feel they don't have any practice to do, and then, before they are able to do a lot of things, external things, they are able to go and travel, whatever, meeting friends, socializing, doing different activities, going to music, whatever, different things. And now you cannot do all of that because, you are in those aging homes, and you can't do all of that. You don't have capacity, ability to do that. And then I see either watching TV whole time or feeling very kind of nothing to do. It's hard to see true smile, joyfulness. You don't see that because they don't have that sense of meaning anymore, But those who have a daily practice, formal daily practice, whatever formal practice it might be, as I was sharing with my parents, my mom passed away when she was 87. My father passed when he was 91 or 92. But even at that age, every day they have sense of purpose. Every morning they get up, they start with their prayers, throughout the day, they start do their prayers and their mantras. And they are so busy with that, trying to do those mantras with whatever commitment they keep to do. And there's a sense of something to do every day. There's a sense of some meaning, hope. And there's a huge difference in that. And you can see in their face the joy, happiness, because of that sense of feeling there's something meaningful for them to do every day. There's something purpose for them to be alive. And day by day, sense of appreciating every day is precious. Every day is meaningful because I have this opportunity to do those practice today. And so that is what makes difference. It's not only about being kind and compassion, which is very important, but also when you have sense of daily practice, it makes a huge difference than not having a daily practice, So therefore, I encourage people to have a formal daily practice, that you have certain practice that you do every day. And the practice can be different from different people. Some people, because they have taken Vajrayana empowerment, they have certain sadhanas, certain practice to do. Some, they can work on meditation on Lamrim, and others, some might be on more, mindfulness meditations. Some might focus more on some of the preliminary practices, or just like my parent and many of those generations, from that part of the world, at least they had certain prayers and the recitation of mantras as simple, just reciting those mantras. So again, whatever practice that suits you, whatever practice that suits individuals, whatever practice that one feel connected, helpful, based on that, you try to have at least one formal daily practice. It's very, very helpful, meaningful. On top of trying to be kind, compassion, patience, all of that, definitely those are important. But to have daily formal practice meditations is very crucial and important, and as I mentioned, I've seen the differences having those practices and not having those practices, especially when it comes to difficult time and at the end of your life, when it's closer to the end of life and also forth. That is what I've observed, the differences. So that is, definitely we should try to have a formal daily practice, whatever formal practice. In the morning, you start with motivations. We call bodhicitta motivations, if possible, bodhicitta motivation. So that will be our ultimate motivations. Our ultimate motivations is to help to liberate all sentient beings from all their suffering and cause of suffering, and to help them to achieve the ultimate happiness, true ultimate happiness. And for that, I must become my best, my highest potentials, actualize highest potential, become my best, that is to achieve fully awakened state. Therefore, I must try to actualize and achieve this, fully awakened state. And in order to that, then, I'm going to do, I need to study, I need to practice, meditate, whatever I need. And also to support those practice, study, I need to work, for livings. And I need to eat, I need to sleep. I need to do all things to sustain myself, to support myself so I can be healthy, so I can continue to practice, so I can continue to be help and benefit to others. So with that, you try to set up that kind of motivations, of course, depending on you can have a, much more, extensive bodhicitta motivations, or at least try to have, short if it's not very extensive, but if possible, if you can, then try to have a more extensive bodhicitta motivation for all our lives until we achieve enlightenment, and especially for this, in this life, in this month, this week, this day, today. And also try to set up on the basis of that, then set up a strong motivation for the day, saying, that I will try to be as patient as possible, as kind, as compassionate as possible for today. I will try myself not to get so upset, angry, and impatient as much as possible, at least for today. Throughout the day, I will try not allow myself to be in that state of anger, frustrations, impatient, and so forth. Instead, I will try to be as kind, compassionate, as patient as possible. So set up that kind of motivation for that day, with that. And then, so that, and then, as a Buddhist, we try to do the refuge every day, every morning. Definitely we start the refuge after that, and then since we are supposed to be, following the Bodhisattva's path, Mahayana path, as a follower of Mahayana path, Bodhisattva path, then we try to generate the bodhicitta. You recite the bodhicitta prayers, and you try to feel as much as possible bodhicitta intention, motivation. So we do the refuge in bodhicitta, And then, if possible, then you try to do, of course, if you already have some kind of sadhana related with particular deity, then you can do that. But if someone doesn't have any kind of that, then you can try to do the Buddha Shakyamuni's practice, remembering the kindness of Buddha Shakyamuni. You try to do a little bit of visualization of Buddha Shakyamuni, and then while you recite the mantra of Buddha Shakyamuni, try to visualize cleansing and purifying all your negative karma, delusion, obscurations, and receiving all the blessings and inspirations, and spiritual realizations. And then you can, after you visualize that, or you receive all these blessings, then you can try to meditate, for example, for a few moments on breath, as a part of placement meditations, concentration meditations. You try to do a little bit of, focus on your breath, And while you do that, while you are focused on breath, you can still recite the, Buddha Shakyamuni's mantras, you can recite that mantra at the same time. Your mind is not focused on the word, but you focus on your breath while you are watching the breath mindfully. You can do that too. Or if you find difficult, then you don't have to do the recitation of the mantra. You just focus on the breath. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever. And then try to do a little bit of analytical meditations, and whatever lumbering topic that you choose to do, for example, for 1 week, 2 weeks, or 1 month, you can try to do on precious human rebirth, and after that, for 1 week or 2 weeks or 1 month, you can try to do impermanent, and then next 1 week, 3 weeks, or 1 month, you try to do on, the karma and the refuge, and then next 1 month, you try to do on, on the nature of the suffering nature of samsara, and then next you try to do, meditation on, loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta. And then for next 1 month, you try to do meditation on emptiness, So in that way, you try to cover the whole lumbering within 1 year, each month, different topics, different subjects. And then again, you can come back, and then focus on certain topic that you want to focus on, and you can do that over many months, if you want to work on particular topic that you feel more strongly, especially sometimes we might be dealing with different emotions, different situations in our life, and one particular lumbering topic might be more related with that. And in dealing, then you can also try to do that. But otherwise, generally, as His Holiness Dalai Lama's advice, we try to also focus more on the bodhicitta and emptiness as much as possible. Yeah. And so that in that way, and then, you end with a short dedications in the morning, So that could be, let's say, 15, 20 minutes to a half hour, 1 hour, depending on that, I don't think anyone should have any challenges, difficulty to find half hour to practice in the morning, no matter how busy you are. The only thing is sometimes you need to get a little bit early, and half hour early than normal, even with those who have child, and even with who have work and child, if the children and family are they get up at 7 in the morning or 6:30, you just need to get half hour before, where everyone started getting and become very busy, You just need to get half hour earlier when it's quiet, when not everyone is still sleeping, they are not awake, and you try to wake up half hour early and try to find the time to do the practice, and to have that practice more consistent, where that become so part of your practice. When you are unable to do, you miss that something, oh, I miss the practice. At the moment, sometimes we don't have that, so we might feel, oh, you miss not doing it instead of miss doing it, and it should be where you have been doing so all the time, and you started doing well and familiar and accustomed, that when you don't do it, you miss, not being able to do that. And that means you are enjoying the practice. and when you do the practice, those daily practice, and again, it inspires. So that is one thing, morning. The best thing is, the first thing you need is to do that morning practice. If you need to go to bathrooms, before that, then you do that. If you need to shower, whatever, or brush, otherwise you can do even before that. The thing is, sometimes we think I will do later. First, let me take care of coffee, let me take care of that, and then you start to become busy. Your mind started to see things. You must start to think, oh, I should do this one, and that take time, and then time goes by. Then, oh, I couldn't find the time. I will do later, and then that goes by. So before you do anything, first thing is try to do the practice. 20 minutes, half hours, minimum. Of course, if you can do more, it can be 1 hour, 2 hour, whole day. There is no problem for the maximum how much, but minimum 20 half hours would be good. So that is where you should have formal daily practice. And sometimes if you need more specific, then you can talk with some teachers if you need to get a more specific advice to have your own formal daily practice. You can ask them and they can help you in helping with that. If someone is still not clear what should be their kind of daily practice, meditations, so then you should kind of reach out, to seek that help, Otherwise, here I'm giving more kind of general, without any, because everyone can have a different practice depending on what their practice is, and so, but whatever those different practice it might be, but that was what, to having a formal daily practice is very, very crucial importance, And then, as I mentioned at the very beginnings, in the morning, you set up with the bodhicitta motivation, spending a little bit more time on bodhicitta motivations, a little bit more extensive on the motivations. And dedication, you don't have to do extensive dedication. You can do a short dedications, and the practice with the short dedications, and then throughout the day, trying to be mindful as much as possible. In the morning, we generated a strong motivation saying, I will try all my best not to get so frustrated, impatient, and upset and angry. In the morning, we try to generate that strong motivation. Throughout the day, I will try my best to be more patient, more kind, more understanding, compassion. So that is what strong motivation we make for the day. And throughout the day, we try to be mindful, and trying to see, am I being patient? Am I being kind? Am I being compassionate? Am I being able to follow the motivation that I have generated this morning? Or am I being under the influence of anger, impatience, frustrations? So checking time to time, checking yourself and being more mindful. And whenever we find our being frustrated, upset, impatience, then remind ourselves of the motivation we had this morning and try to apply whatever tools you have, different practice, meditations, to reduce and to overcome the frustration, the anger, impatient, whatever you are dealing with. These are just some examples. Sometimes we might be dealing with some other emotions, so you can just try to focus on that emotion. You are dealing with certain emotion more strong in certain time, certain days, certain weeks, certain months. So then you can focus more on that. But that's more general that, so that we try to do throughout the mindfulness as much as possible. And then whenever we need it to apply a specific meditation practice to reduce them, when we find that our mind is being, those negative emotions are arising, then we try to do that. So that is throughout the day, that is what we try to do. And if we, in the morning, if we have generated that strong intention, motivations, it will be more easy for us to remember that throughout the day. If we don't develop a strong intention, motivation in the morning, it's much more harder. So that motivations, when you set up that strong motivation in the morning, because it is something that you have set up this morning and is strong, so it is still in your mind. And so therefore, throughout the day, it becomes a little bit more easier to be more mindful and notice them than not having that kind of strong, setting up those strong intention motivations. So that is something that we try to do, and as I mentioned throughout the day, we try to apply the practice in everything we do, whenever we eat, whenever we drink, try to remember the three jewels, Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. First, try to make offering to them before, and then we try to enjoy it as a blessings, from them. So again, also we try to generate the motivations, right motivation for drinking, eating, so that we can sustain our body, so we can be healthy. And the reason to be sustaining and be healthy is to practice and to be benefit to others. So again, relating that the reason I have to eat, the reason I have to drink, the reason I have to do exercise, whatever form of exercise, hiking, walking, or gyms, whatever, reminding ourselves why I am doing that. Why am I doing that? I'm doing that so I can be healthy. Why I need to be healthy? So that I can continue to practice. And the purpose, why I need to practice, the practice so I can, subdue my mind, free from, overcome those negative emotions, reduce those negative emotions, cultivate those positive minds, and so I can be more help, benefit to other sentient beings. Not only myself, but so I can be more helpful, beneficial to everyone that I interact in every day, as well as beyond that, all other sentient beings, especially to whom I'm interacting directly. If I'm patient, with whomever I'm interacting, I can be more, communicate better. I can be more helpful than if I'm impatient. So we try to relate with that intentions, the bodhicitta motivations. Why, same with sleeping, we spend a lot of time sleeping. Again, before we go to sleep, we try to have that intention, motivation. Why I need to sleep? I need to go sleep because, again, if I don't have enough sleep, again, I cannot function well, and my health, also for my good health and to function better, so that I feel rested. If I'm rested, I can function better. And the reason why I need to function better and why I need to be healthy is so that I can continue to practice. And the purpose of practice is to help and benefit ascension beings. So always throughout the day, same thing, whatever you are doing, cleaning, gardening, we try to relate that with that intense motivation for bodhicitta. And by doing that, then everything that you do become more beneficial, more virtuous, more meaningful. From outside, it might seem less spiritual what you are doing exercise in the gym, but it becomes spiritual because of your right intention, motivation, and state of your mind in that moment. It all depends on our state of mind, our intentions. If there is the right intention, motivation, and right state of mind when we are doing what we are doing, then watching the news can be a spiritual. Going to the gym can be a spiritual. Gardening can be a spiritual. If our intention is not right, if our state of mind is not right in that, even you try to meditate, might not be spiritual. Even you try to practice, say the prayers, mantra, whatever practice you do, might not be spiritual. So whether it becomes spiritual or not, it depends on your state of mind. And so if we can bring our in the right intention, motivation time, then everything throughout the day, what we do can become a spiritual virtues and practice. And then as it is advised, in the mind trainings, lojong and others, again, we try to, for example, when you are cleaning, whether we are cleaning the dishes or whether we are cleaning our rooms, whether we are cleaning the garden, whatever we need to clean, while you are cleaning, you try to remember, I'm cleaning all my negative emotions. I'm cleaning all these my negative emotions, especially, selfish attitude and self-grasping. I'm cleaning, externally, I'm cleaning all this external dirt, but internally, that I'm cleaning all these internal dirts, So we can think that, we can imagine together with the external dirt, all these internal dirts being cleaned away. Same way when you're chopping, when you are preparing for food, again, same thing, you try to remember, I'm chopping all these afflictive emotions. I'm chopping my selfish attitude. I'm chopping my ignorance, So again, whatever we are doing, we try to relate with the practice of reducing the selfish attitude, the self-centeredness, the self-grasping ignorance, and all other delusion that come from that. When you are drinking, eating, we can visualize that we are, drinking and eating that has been, after making offering to the 3 jewels, from there they give as a blessings, and now we are drinking, loving kindness, compassions, the wisdom. So just as we visualize from the Buddhas coming, entering all the blessings, similarly, now all this, I'm drinking all these blessings, all this, the drinking of loving kindness, compassion, the bodhicitta mind, the wisdom realizing emptiness, wisdom is an impermanent, wisdom is a samsaric nature, the suffering nature of samsara, all of that we imagine. Same with drinking, we are putting all this into ourself. So again, and when you go to bathroom, to pee or to what is the other peeing and I don't know what you call. Yeah, jhana, what?
Poop.
Poop, yeah. Thank you. When you pee and you poop, again, you imagine and visualize, cleansing and purifying all your negative karma, all the delusion, all the obscurations, especially selfish attitude and self-grasping ignorance. And especially, for example, in certain part of our life, in certain months, certain weeks, certain days, we are bothered by certain negative emotions. Sometimes it can be jealousy, sometimes it can be a strong desire, sometimes it can be a strong resentment, and sometimes it can be frustrations, anger, whatever those negative emotion that we might be dealing with. We focus, especially during that time, that we are cleansing and purifying that particular negative emotion that is bothering us, And if you want, then you can recite certain prayers. You can even visualize a deity while you are pooping, while you are peeing. If you are especially, sometimes people seem to take a lot of time while they are pooping. And so if you are taking 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you have time to visualize, especially if you have any deity. And it can be Vajrasattva or any other deity that you feel connected. And then while you are doing it, from their heart and the garlands of mantras, white light nectar flow and then enter yourself and then cleansing and purifying all these your negativities, and especially those afflictive emotion and especially selfish attitude, self-grasping. And they all are cleansed in the form of that poop, And when you flush, you visualize flushing all these negativity completely gone, So again, applying that kind of, everything we do throughout the day, there is a way that we can try to connect with the practicing, like in some of the lojong, and it's based in one of the sutras where it is mentioned, to the bodhisattva's advice. When you open the door, imagine and visualize you are opening the door to liberations to all sentient beings. You are opening the door for the liberations of yourself and all sentient beings. When you close the door, you imagine closing the door to the samsara and lower realms. So like everything throughout the day, whatever we do, trying to understand and connect with some of the in relation to the practice, And in that way, then throughout the day, whatever we do, they become part of mind training. Part of mind training. It becomes part of meditations. You might not be sitting on the cushions and contemplating and thinking, but while you are closing and while you are opening, you are still using your mind to meditate and contemplate, reminding ourselves, I'm closing this door to the samsara and to the lower rebirth of not myself, but all sentient beings. So by doing that, when you are able to contemplate in that moment, you are trying to, train your mind to turn away from the samsara. And also by remembering that you are closing not only for yourself, but for all sentient beings, also you are connecting your mind with all sentient beings. So then it touches your compassion mind. It's like giving a water to your compassion seed. Each time we do that, by remembering the other sentient beings who are suffering, and thereby you think of that you are closing the door for all their suffering and samsara and all of that. Same way when you open, just as again, when you think, contemplate, I'm opening the door to enlightenment for all sentient beings and for myself. So again, you are not meditating on cushion, but you are meditating, you are contemplating. So Whether you sit on cushion, not sit on cushion, as long as you are contemplating, that is practice, that's meditations. And so in that way, then you can make the whole day meditations practice, So then you don't have to be so harsh on yourself. Oh, I couldn't find myself for practice meditation more than half hour or 1 hour. I wish I could find more time. And then, we feel guilt, I'm unable to find. But if you can use everything that you do throughout the day in that kind of thinking, contemplation, meditation, then, you are practicing, meditating, contemplating all the time. And in that way, then it becomes extremely powerful and helpful, And of course, throughout the days, some people, they might have more practice to do. And if you have more time to do formal practice, whatever formal practice, meditation is wonderful, And then at the end of the day, before we go to the bed, it doesn't have to be just before you go to the bed in the evenings, You try to do, if possible, purification practice, And if you can, you can do Vajrasattva purification practice. But if you find difficult to kind of relating with that, you can do other purification practice, in relation to others. But if you can, then try to do Vajrasattva purification practice. We try to contemplate throughout the day. This morning, I try to generate these good intentions. This morning, I try to generate and I try to set up good motivation by saying that I will try my best not to get so upset, frustrated, impatient, and so forth. I've set up my motivation to be more patient, more kind, more compassionate, more understanding as much as possible. So evening, we try to reflect the day. How did it go? Did it go as I set up my motivations? Or did it not go the way I set up motivations? I was frustrated. I was angry. Even though I set up morning motivation, not get upset and angry, but now I find I was upset. I was frustrated. I was impatient. So then we try to recollect, and out of that, maybe I hurt someone, I harmed someone through my speech, or through negative thoughts, or through whatever we do. Then we try to recollect, remember, and then saying, oh, that wasn't so great. Even though I set up good intention, but I was unable to follow it as well. I will try to follow up and do better next time, next day, tomorrow. But we try to acknowledge that was not so great, that was unhealthy, unwholesome. And we regret, and we acknowledge that was not something great, not best. We acknowledge regret, and we make a strong determinations that we will try stronger, better tomorrow, in the futures, not to allow myself to be, impatience, anger, and so forth, or not to create more negative karma. And with that strong resolutions, and generating a strong refuge to Buddha Dhamma Sangha, generating a strong compassion to all sentient beings. And then we try to, if possible, then you try to do the Vajrasattva mantras. While you do the Vajrasattva mantra, visualizing, cleansing all the negative karma, especially whatever happened today, being cleansed and purified, all of them. And if you can do the long mantra, understandable. But if you cannot, you can do the short short one, Om Basra Satva Hum, which is very short, It shouldn't be very difficult for you to memorize even that one, Om Basra Satva Hum, And minimum, you can try to do 28 times, And again, that would be helpful to purify, whatever negative karma we might have created throughout the day, to purify. And as it is mentioned in many of the teachings by all the great masters, if we recite with that kind of right intention, motivation, it can purify all negative karma, even if all the four opening powers are not complete or not strong. Even if we cannot purify negative karma totally, at least what it can do is it stop the negative karma from increasing, multiplying. So in those, they say, each day, evening or night, you try to do the long 121. If you cannot do long one, short 128. Of course, you can do mala, 1 mala, 10 mala, 100 mala. There's no problem with that. But minimum, you try to do 28. That is impossible. And Om Vasasatava Hum 28 would take you a few minutes just to do that, And then, you try to, and then when you reflect throughout the day, if you see that you have been even not fully successful, even it's not fully successful to follow up what you have set up, the intention, motivation this morning, but at least, you have been little success, being little impatience, little frustrated, little anger, that you have been, even you are not completely incredible compassion, but you have tried to be little compassions. Not totally patient, but you have tried you have been able to be little patient. Then if you see that, then rejoice that, Rejoice that, that you have been able to follow, if not fully, at least a little bit of what we have set out to do this morning. Rejoice that, feel good about that, and generate a strong intention to continue to do that and even do better in the futures, maybe tomorrow, and so forth. And then you try to do the dedications, more longer dedication in the evenings, dedicating all the virtues, positive things that we have done through the day, whatever positive things that we have done through our speech, through our action, through our thoughts, we try to dedicate for the happiness of all sentient beings, for the long, and, you can dedicate for everyone who is sick, them to be recovered, cured from those illness, everyone who has passed away, for them to have better, higher rebirth, everyone who is facing obstacles, for them to be free obstacles. And then each and every one sentient beings to be able to actualize Bodhicitta mind, wisdom, realizing emptiness, and achieve fully enlightenment. And then, you can, if you want, if you have time, and it's good to do also, dedicate for the longevity of all the gurus, if we have gurus, for the stability and flourishing of the Dharma, all of that. So you can try to do. Of course, there are certain dedication prayers that you can use, specifically like from the scriptures written by the great masters. But again, sometimes if you find difficult, you can have your own dedications, You can, also you can do your own dedications as well in your own way, So again, try to dedicate for higher purpose, for the well-being of all sentient beings, more broadly for all sentient beings, not only yourself, your families, your friends, but instead you dedicate for all sentient beings. When you dedicate for all sentient beings, you have dedicated for your family, yourself. You don't have to worry about that. If you are sick and you dedicate to cure all sentient beings from the illness, sickness, you have dedicated for yourself. You are sick. Even you say, not for me. You have dedicated for everyone. If your family, friends are sick, you have dedicated for them to cure from that, recover from that. When you have dedicated all sentient, they all are included there. Same with someone, when you dedicate for all sentient beings to be free from the obstacles, even though you don't say specifically your own name, your families, and all of that, all of them included when you do that. So then, you try to do the dedication in that way. And then before you go to the bed, then, you set up the motivation for going to the bed, bodhicitta motivations. So then it says, then your sleep become virtuous by the power of that motivations, as I mentioned at the beginning, that now I'm going to sleep and I need to go to sleep so that I can be healthy, so I can function better tomorrow, this week, this month, this year. And so if I'm healthy, if I can function better, I can practice better, I can be more helpful and beneficial to more sentient beings. With that kind of motivation, then we try to go to the bed. And from Vajrayana point of view, then, of course, then you can visualize the deity, and sometimes they say, like you can imagine sleeping on the lap of the deity, like a child, who feel very secure and safe at the lap of the mother, when they sleep on the mother's lap, they feel so secure and so comfortable, so peaceful, and they can sleep very well without any fear, worry. That similarly, one can imagine that we are sleeping on the lap of the deities with that kind of trust, confidence. That that is just one example, but that doesn't mean basically but trying to have the right intention for going for the bed, because we spend a lot of time in the bed, and so that it is mentioned among many different mental factors. Sleep is one of those. Sleep mind is one of those mental factors, and normally the sleep is known as neutral mental factors. Within the mental factors, some of them are virtues, some of them are non-virtues, some of them are actually to emotions, and some of them neutral, and sleep is one of the neutral. So it can be negative or it can be positive by the influence of others. So when you have with the right intention, motivations, we go, then the sleep mental factors is being influenced by the positive, so it becomes positive. If we go with a negative mindset, with the anger, with that sleep, then again that becomes negative by the power. So therefore, again, that kind of intention motivations, so that is how. So I think that is a little bit on daily practice, So then I think it would be better that I take some cautions, so that it can be a little more specific if anyone want to. So does anyone has any cautions?
I have sort of a comment, Geshe.
Yes, please.
First of all, this has been really inspirational. Thank you. Thank you. It really has been. But I was also thinking that when we do have a daily practice, and I'm really thinking, well, I was going to say I was really thinking of sadhana practice, but really it's any prayers that we say every day.
Mm-hmm.
Just today, I was doing a sadhana practice that I've done for 43 years, every day
Mm-hmm.
for 3 years. And I had this bing, this light bulb went off about something that I hadn't ever picked up in one of the lines.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I don't know how many days that is, but that's a whole lot of times that I've done this practice. And still there's something new and something deeper and something more profound that
Mm-hmm.
bubble up into our consciousness. And that's why I love daily practice. And I also know uh, that I'm a much better person every day because I start the day with meditation. I just know that it's true. And anyway, that was my comment.
Thank you for sharing your experience. And as you mentioned, for sure, when people have been doing meditation practice, whatever different form of practice, meditations, when you do all the time with the familiarity as well as the blessings, as well as the conducive conditions, the merit and everything, then definitely, as you had, that kind of awakening or enlightened moment, something that we didn't have before, more profound understanding, more profound experience, and that will continue to grow as we continue to do practice, so yeah, thank you for sharing that. Definitely. Yes, Lou.
Yes, thank you for your teachings. So when you mentioned that before we eat, that we should dedicate it to the 3 jewels, and then think about, we're eating this in order to be healthy so that we may be more helpful to others. So when I eat, I usually dedicate the food that I'm eating to so that it may be sustenance for all beings everywhere, particularly those who are in very difficult situations like famine or the hungry ghost realm. So is one of these more efficient than the other, or are they both basically the same thing? Should I switch my practice so that it's more along the lines of what you were recommending?
No, I think what you are doing the same. It is a same line, that we are being aware of the pain and suffering of other sentient beings, and we are dedicating for all sentient beings that kind of bodhicitta motivations. And then, of course, if we can, on top of that, if we can also remember the 3 jewels and make the offerings in them, that wouldn't. You can say word, or you don't have to say words. Of course, there are many different offering verses, but again, you can use them, or you can say in your mind, that I make offering to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and I will take it as a blessings. And also by remembering there are so many sentient beings who are suffering, and who are suffering of hunger and thirsties, and may they also, all of them also, enjoy the food and drink like myself, and so definitely you can do the way you have been doing, but also we can also add a little bit of making offering to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. That is also one of the commitment of taking a refuge, is that one of the commitment of taking a refuge is making offering to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, before we eat, we drink, if possible. And again, as I mentioned, there are many different verses of that, offering verses. You can use any of them, or as I mentioned, sometimes you don't have to use, as long as in your mind you remember the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and in your mind you make offering, whether you say the words or not. Yeah.
Thank you.
But
I have another question in terms of practice times. In Hinduism, they talk about the prana hours, which are between the hours of 4 and 6 a.m. in the morning, as being the best time to do any kind of spiritual practice. does anything like that exist in Buddhism, or does it carry the same kind of thought about those particular hours?
I don't know specific hours, but definitely they encourage to the practice in the dawn, in the morning, early mornings. And especially when we talk about 6 sessions, the way they divide 6 sections is again very early dawn, you know. So probably it might be around that time or a little bit slightly different. But so, but in generally, it is said the morning is best. Our mind is more fresh, you know. Our mind has more clarity, more fresh. So they do encourage to do the morning practice, you know, yeah. So when you talk
Thank you.
about dawn, probably it's like 4 or 5 hours, between 4 or 5, around 5, between 4 to 6, you know, I guess, before the sunrise, you know.
Mm.
And many of the masters, His Holiness Dalai Lama, I think he get up 3:30 every morning before. I don't know what before. So and many of my teachers, they also start their practice. They get up 4 in the morning and then they do the morning. You know, so again, they seems to follow that kind of, you know, around 4, you know, morning practice from that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes, Mary Jo, you have to unmute. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. I was trying. Thank you so much. This is very helpful for me, definitely. And thank you. And I hope it's been recorded and will be archived. It's very, very nice. And thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Does anyone has any questions or anything to share? Yes, Jacqueline.
Thank you for your comments and your teachings on daily practice, which makes me wonder about my daily practices because I studied with Lama Tseltrim Alioni in the 90s and learned several practices from her, which I understand were given to her by Namkhai Norbu Rinpoche.
Mm-hmm.
And I love these practices, although there's not one in particular that I do. But they always feel I feel a sense of coming home
Mm-hmm.
doing these practices. And I love the book that Namkhai Norbu Rinpoche wrote about the practice of day and night, which feels to me very similar to what you've expressed here tonight about practicing all day. It's not just on the meditation cushion, but how you integrate in your life. But I would love to make some time with you, if possible, to speak with you specifically about these practices that I have and maybe there's something else that I could be doing that maybe consolidates into a one practice that I can do that is specific, more not specific, but just feels more integrated.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. I think we can try to set up time or something to discuss about that.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Yes. So if there's no caution, then we can do the dedications. If there's caution, still we have a couple of minutes.
Geshe, we don't have our list with us, but several
Okay.
people have
Yeah.
names in the chat, so maybe we can, Johnny, do you want to read those that are in the chat? box.
Okay, we're going to dedicate the merit created by listening to this teaching to all sentient beings everywhere on every prayer list. We're going to dedicate for the health and long life of all our precious teachers. We're going to dedicate for all those experiencing obstacles, specifically Alyssa, all those experiencing illness, specifically Shelley, Debbie, and Susan, and all those who have died recently or who are dying, specifically Lady Diana Mukpo and Kay Ford.
Dedications, prayers can be shared.
Dedication prayers, once in Tibetan. Gewadi Nyur Du Dag Lama Sangye Drub Gyurne Drowa Chikyang Malupa Dei Sala Go Parsho Jongchub Semcho Rinpoche Ma Ke Panam Ke Gyurchig Ke Wanyam Pa Me Payang Gong Ne Gong Du Pelwar Shog. Long life prayer for His Holiness the Dalai Lama, once in English. The wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, to the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. And for Lama Zopa Rinpoche, that his reincarnation will be identified and continue to teach us. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious one, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losang, father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for mother living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss! Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples.
So thank you, everyone. Good night. And next week, there wouldn't be any teachings, but we will have after that in persons. And also, everyone keep in your prayer. The Nepal, they are going through a lot of challenges, difficulties. So, okay. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe Sherab.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Good night.
everyone.
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
night. Thank you.
Good night,
night.
Geshe.
Good
Thank you,
night.
Geshe.
Thank you. Good